Hey everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy Sweet World week to spend some time with us here at Plative to learn more of what we call the AI trust imperative and a little bit about who we are as an organization. We are both a NetSuite and Salesforce consultancy dedicating to helping organizations unify their business from marketing to ERP. And we support a variety of different industries from software as a service, pro serve, nonprofit, financial services, manufacturing. And across all of those industries are individuals likely like yourself that are beginning to explore how AI can support their organization and streamline their operational efficiency. And at Plative, we have a series of different services that we can provide to you to help you on any pitch stop of that journey. If you're here listening in and you're exploring your first time implementation of NetSuite, we can absolutely support you. We can certainly help with add on initiatives if you're introducing new modules, something like a NetSuite Field Service Management, Analytics Warehouse. But we also spend a lot of time working with organizations to help from a strategic standpoint of mapping either your integration strategy, your data strategy, and yes, of course, your artificial intelligence. And so if you're here at Sweet World, come by the booth. We have a lot more beyond what we'll talk about today that we can show you. But if you're dialed in virtually, head to our website, head to the contact us form and reach out. We will have our team of experts reach back out to you in no time to help articulate what this can mean for you and your team. And so when it comes to the trust imperative, we've been doing a lot of these summits physically in person. And we typically start off the summit by asking this question: who here has an AI governance strategy? And so if you're sitting on this call, I would ask for you to reflect on this question. Usually when we ask this, there are a few people in the room that truly have a governance strategy. They might have thought of it, but few have actually deployed it. Following that question is this one here, a question around whether or not you believe a machine or a piece of technology can lie. Can it provide misinformation, inaccurate information? And this almost always gets a resounding yes. And it's something, of course, I believe as well. And to help maybe further illustrate this point, I'll lean on a volunteer in the Xerox Work Center 7535. And what you're looking at here is arguably the backbone of corporate America. We've all used one of these in some way, shape, or form. And it's one of the most trusted, reliable, accessible pieces of technology, especially in an office setting. And this was certainly the case for a company in Germany that, like we all have, relied on this tool to make some pretty critical copies for the business. And this organization was actually preparing for an office build out. So they had an original document, which was the floor plan, and they needed to make a series of copies for individuals like their employees, their contractors, vendors, really anyone in the sphere of influence for this project. And so, as anyone does, they went to the machine, the original, put it through, selected how many copies they needed, and produced those copies. And so on this screen, what you're seeing on the left is the original, and on the right, the copy. Likely hard for you to see the differences between the original and the copy, but they certainly exist. And I can help you out with a few highlighters here. And so what was different from the original is captured in the boxes that you see on the right-hand side. And you might be sitting here potentially wondering, well, how did that happen? Do photocopiers not just take a photo of the existing original document and then copy and transcribe that onto a subsequent document? And the answer to that is no. And photocopiers actually leverage a form of AI in OCR, or optical character recognition. And so what it does, in short, is takes a look at the characters that it sees on the original document and then makes an estimate as to what needs to be produced as it's scanning on the copy with a compression algorithm that supports in that process. And so, long story short, when it went through that translation, it got the measurements completely wrong for two of the boxes that you see on the right-hand side. And again, this is a floor plan. It's a schematic for an office build out. So as you can imagine, the implication of that error was tremendously costly. millions of dollars wasted from labor costs, delayed timelines in relation to the projects, material, all of it. And the moral of that story is that when our machines lie or give misinformation and we don't have the right governance strategy to fact check our checks and balances around the information that we're being provided, it can be tremendously costly. And that cost can be measured in dollars. In other cases, it could be in brand reputation. And another very quick example of this is recently, Air Canada actually relied on AI chatbot to support in inbound inquisitions, case management. And this chatbot actually took the liberty of creating a bereavement refund policy without any human intervention. And unfortunately, there were individuals that were going through a very challenging moment in their life, and their travel logistics, of course, were impacted by that. And so to see such a great policy available to them, many of them took advantage or tried to leverage this in a time of need. And when they found out that this was a fabrication, you could only imagine the emotion and the vitriol displayed towards Air Canada. And this story got a lot of spotlight, made it to a ton of media outlets, and the Air Canada brand was dramatically impacted as a result of this instance. And this is where we find ourselves when it comes to the trust imperative. Earlier on, we asked the question around who has an AI governance strategy. And as mentioned, few people truly do. And when you couple that with the other statistic you see in the middle of the screen here from CFO Magazine, that 3 out of 4 of your employees, or 75%, are leveraging AI in some way, shape, or form with or without that strategy. And that should be an unnerving sentiment, that your employees are taking your trusted company and customer data and throwing it at places without regulation or insight or recourse for those actions. And that is what we call really the balancing act between practicality and trust when it comes to AI solutions. And in some cases, organizations over index with practical solutions, leveraging things like OpenAI or Jasper.ai, which are undeniably practical. They're very useful, user friendly, in many cases free, a lot of in browser experiences. But when it comes to the overall regulation of these AI tools and the ability to audit and check for validity, it's quite minimal. And so it's really not advisable for your team members and other individuals within your ecosystem to be leveraging those tools, especially with critical customer data, especially when you're in industries like financial services, healthcare, legal services as well, that are heavily regulated themselves. On the other side of the spectrum, there are organizations that might over index from a trust perspective. They acknowledge the risks of AI solutions. And so, with that, they maybe restrict some of the practical use cases that could exist for their end users. And not to pick on our friends at Microsoft, but when it comes to Copilot, if you were able to just do a quick search, what you'll find is a lot of verbiage in and around it being slow, it being difficult to use, for it to not be as responsive as one would like. And those aren't terms that you really want to associate with AI, which is meant to be a force multiplier when it comes to productivity, to being efficient and intelligent on the job. And so for us at Plative, the way that we accomplish this balancing act is illustrated on the right hand side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen, you'll see 3 core tenets to having a framework that allows you to have secure data, and that's what's at the bottom. And I think it's important to call out that in order to really take advantage of this, it starts with having your critical business data in trusted and secure platforms. So that's your data lake, that's your ERP, that's your CRM, and the securities and permission settings enabled within it to ensure that people are only able to access the data that they should be in the first place. On top of that, what we will do is layer then a model, an LLM. For us, that's Anthropic. And with that, there are pre-baked capabilities for you to, again, track and audit the information that is flowing through it, and to not only check the validity, but to secure it first and foremost. And then layered on top of that, arguably is one of the most important things, at least to us, which is a user interface that is easy to use. At Plative, we believe any AI solution that we enable needs to be within the work path of its end users. Employees should not have to tab out into a new platform in order to leverage something that's going to make their life easier. It should be directly where they spend the majority of their day. And for us and for many of our clients, that's a tool like Slack, that's a tool like Teams. And so we'll show you what that looks like and how we use this to help all of our employees become more productive, regardless of what their role is within the organization. And so what that looks like in practice and what that unlocks for you, for us, and for others is that you have all of your critical company data, you have a trusted model, and then you have a user interface that allows you to access the data that you're enabled to first and foremost for you to be tremendously efficient on the job. And what we're talking about is not a product. This is all service for hire. And so as you're sitting through this session today, I would encourage you to think through what this can mean for you, because here at Plative, we can absolutely enable it. And so a few of the AI accelerators that we have for NetSuite, and we'll show you these in practice here momentarily, but the first is Ask NetSuite. And so for those of you that aren't wizards when it comes to saved searches, when it comes to analytic workbooks, this is your friend, where in a minute, or in an instance, I should say, I want access to insight around the business. It might be in relation to our product performance. It might be in relation to inventory count by location. Any data that is living in NetSuite, I want to be able to access it, have a conversation with it without the laborious task of having to click through tabs, click through reports, and have my administrative team build it for me in the first place. So we're going to show you what that looks like living and breathing in NetSuite. Beyond that, we're not always behind our desk. We're not always in front of our NetSuite instance. So what if I'm able to access not only NetSuite information, but other information related to our business in the palm of our hand? And so we're going to jump out of NetSuite, we're going to jump into Slack and show you how powerful that can truly be. And then something that we won't show today, but we'll simply talk through, as many of you listening are likely Salesforce users. And if you're Salesforce users, no doubt you've heard about Einstein Copilot. The challenge is that it's only related to the information that lives and breathes within Salesforce, but that might hinder you from actually getting a 360-degree view of your customers. There might be critical information living in a Cantata, critical information living in NetSuite. And so what we're able to leverage is Ask NetSuite or ask any other tool within Salesforce. So you can open the context window of information so that you can get a full picture of your customer to make a then data informed decision. And so I've said so much in a short period of time. So I would love to just show you what some of this looks like overall. And so we're going to tab over into NetSuite. And for many of you, this is a familiar screen. If this is your first time looking at NetSuite, welcome. But let's put on the hat of a software as a service organization. And you're looking at a dashboard here that tells me about some of the critical SaaS metrics that I need to know at any given moment, and information about new ARR, upsell, downsell, churn. And if my heart desired, I can click through this dashboard and get the information I'm hopefully looking for. But wouldn't it be great if I can have it exposed to me elsewhere? And that's where you enter ChatGPT for NetSuite. And so what you're looking at is an in NetSuite application that we've built, enabled for many individuals, ourselves included, where if I'm in this, say I had a question such as, what are my top 5 ARR accounts? And so Plato gets to work. And Plato can be named anything, by the way. It's just, it relates to what we do here at Plative. But what you're seeing is that it is going to query, in this case, a saved search that we've created that's informing that dashboard that I just showed you. And so you can see the response that based on ARR, here are the top 5 ARR accounts outlined and some additional information about it. One step further, though, I might want to better understand things like churn, things like our lowest performing products overall. And so Here is then a continuous thread that I'll show you of communication that you can have with Plato or our AI bot as it navigates your NetSuite instance. So let's continue on this conversation. What about churn? Plato, back at work, again, knows where to go because we've provided Plato with the context it needs to answer this question. And so Plato is not beholden to save searches or workbooks. Plato can scan and analyze and assess any record within your NetSuite instance. So if, again, you wanted information about inventory, if you wanted information about your field service technician, all of that is possible. And it can also help drive decision. So in this case, maybe I want to better understand where I should focus my time. And so Plato, again, with the appropriate context and direction in relation to ARR and our overall product performance, Plato's going to make a recommendation. And so as that prompts, I would encourage you once again, how does this relate to me and my team? And so here you can see a series of recommendation where they're focusing on a particular things like the highest value accounts, maybe previous transactions, upsell opportunities, but all of this, once again, living and breathing in your NetSuite instance. But as mentioned, we're not always behind our desktop. We're not always in NetSuite. And so we're going to tab over, and what you see now is Plato, but the user interface that we had referenced in a previous slide. So once again, we have your data, and the data is illustrated by all of these core platforms that you can see here. You then have an AI model, which is behind the scenes, which is going to be doing a lot of the retrieval and the analysis that you'll see here momentarily. And then the user interface, and that user interface in this case is Slack. So that exact same question and prompt, as mentioned, of Ask NetSuite. So I'm going to click Submit. You're going to see an immediate message prompt here on the right-hand side, and you're going to see AI at work. And so, as you can see, consistent answer from what I got within NetSuite, I've now received directly within Plato because, again, it's the same data source. But Plato's not done there. And what you'll also see is it starts to chart the information. That's important to me and the team. What I would also like to draw your attention to, and this is very critical, what we call the inner monologue. And so what this serves as is a description as to what Plato is doing, what it's looking at to fetch the information for you. So in an instance, you can see if Plato were to suggest that it's going to a particular workbook that actually doesn't have the relevant information, you can then, again, train the model to make sure that it has the appropriate context to give you the right answer. So this is your own validation to deduce, yep, that makes sense because it's looking in the right place. Another very cool example, and again, as mentioned, you're able to chart the graphics and you can do some very cool things to slice and dice your information. But let's say same software as a service organization, but now I'm going to put on the hat of a sales representative or a business development representative and see what that could look like. So maybe my manager told me, hey, Jeff, very exciting customer in Big Five sporting goods. Let's send some notes out to them. Let's see if there's any product potentially that we can sell. Same thing where I'm able to search customers. And so this customer lives in NetSuite in Big Five sporting goods. So I'm going to submit that information because without going to NetSuite, I would love if I can just get a quick synopsis, what they do, and other critical information that's going to allow me to expedite my outreach. So once again, you can see we're asking NetSuite for data about Big Five sporting goods. But that's not the only source of data that I'm interested in. We have other tools that we leverage within the organization, things like Apollo, as you see in the top here. Apollo, similar to Zoom Info, has critical information about the business in regards to the people, their contact information, the technology they're using, all things that I would love to have at my fingertips before I send a note to an executive of their team. There's also such valuable information naturally on the internet, on LinkedIn. And so what if we could, again, expand the context window of where we're getting information and have that consolidated in one easy to digest forum. And so you can see here, we've got a synopsis of the organization, but beyond that, you have further tabs to give you what you might need. So maybe as a sales rep within the organization, I am paid when the company is paid from a commission standpoint. So I might want to better understand the invoice status. Before I reach out, I would love to understand who's who in the zoo, what are the roles, the individuals behind them. So I'll also click company structure for me to have an effective outreach and understand what tools they might be using. And let's envision that I sell NetSuite, maybe gaps that I'm hoping to fill with my solution. Let me understand their tech stack. And just to round out totally, we can also look at company news. So the company news coming from LinkedIn, coming from our data enrichment platform like a Zoom Info or Apollo. So all of that information from those prompts, as you can see, is being filled out here. So we've got the invoice information, and if I need to see more of it, I can dive into it. You can see an overview of the company structure here on the right-hand side. So again, when it was founded, market cap, all of this very helpful information coming from a tool like Zoom Info or in our case, Apollo. Beyond that, you're getting a breakdown of individuals that you see on the right-hand side here as well. So the executive leadership, the vice presidents within the organization and beyond. And lastly, the tools that they're leveraging across the organization, scrubbing this from your data enrichment platform. And so all of this information has been brought to me by one, having our core platforms connected in the first place. Secondly, having a model on top of that, and then a very easy to leverage user interface. One step further, I'm a BDR. I'm sending out a ton of these notes. What if I were to want to write an email? So if I were to say, write an email to the director of operations at Big Five Sporting Goods about why they should consider NetSuite given their recent company news, in addition to the technology that they're using. So let's see where that gets us. And so here it is. Dear Director of Operations, I hope this email finds you well. And beyond that, 7 bullet points as to why they should consider NetSuite. But myself as an executive, an email between 25 to 50 words is probably what I'll digest real time. If not, I'm going to deprioritize it. So what if I give the prompt, hey, shorten this to 25 words just to increase the chance of it actually being read? And so Plato, hard at work once again, simplifies that message. So as a sales rep, a task that might have taken me 10, 15, 20, an hour even, I've done here real time in this conversation simply because we have our tools connected, an intelligent model on top of that, and a very easy to leverage interface. And so there you have it. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about our perspective around AI and most importantly, some of the solutions that we've enabled. If anything here has inspired you to learn more as to what this could look like for you and your team, again, if you're here locally, pop by the booth, a lot more to talk about. And if not, head to our website, fill out a contact us form, and our team will reach out to you.